If we feel like breaking out into song, that's okay too.
You
don't want to hear me sing.
Yeah, you do not want to hear me sing.
What's the worst that can happen? Okay.
Yeah.
We got folks on. This is cool. We gotta make sure to get to. Here we go. Okay, welcome everybody to another scintillating and juicy episode of Silicon Zombies on 92.9 FM. That's KPCR in Los Gatos and KMRT 101.9 FM all the way in beautiful Santa Cruz. We're on Pirate Cat Radio. Before we get started, I want to do a quick shout out to our to the Frosty Frequency fundraiser. That's a lot of good stuff right there. So if you're feeling generous and you want to donate to community radio, we'll take your money. So thank you so much for joining us. We're on Zombies. We demystify emerging technology, but more importantly, we tell wonderful stories with great local humans. Speaking of great local humans, we've got a great group today. In fact, Yvonne Schwab, CEO at ACG, and we've got Dwayne, Campbell, and Natalie Pan as well. So we're hosting some really cool stuff coming up too. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and light this firework. Maybe just to put you in the hot spot, Natalie, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're excited about, and we'll rock and roll here.
Yeah, so I'm an engineer turned coach, community builder, and now pre-accelerator.
Closer.
So I recently launched a pre-accelerator for early stage founders. We actually just started our cohort this week, and we help early stage founders learn about fundraising. And so I'm super excited about that. We're a nonprofit, and we're here to support founders. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for joining. It's wonderful to have you guys. Dwayne, please.
Thank you, Nick. Nick, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to be on your show and share my story. And all glory to God.
That's
I'm
right.
Very excited about everything that we have to talk about today.
Very cool. Well, thank you for being here. It's an honor to have you both here. And Yvonne, please.
Well, I work for ACG Silicon Valley, and that's a networking organization focusing on senior level executives in the tech and tech-related industries here in Silicon Valley. We are one of 61 chapters in Northern America and Northern Europe, and mostly deal in the M&A deal-making space.
That's where the rubber hits the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because it's like, of course, we want to connect with people that we love and that we care about and have good experiences. But at the end of the day, commerce is important too. So if we can help people make deals and make a little cheddar, that's not such a bad thing, right? So, perhaps we can get started with both of you. You mentioned a recent event that's coming up. Tell us a little bit about the genesis of that.
Oh yeah, so after my last event with Daniel Oskowski at the Creative Frontier, someone who was there introduced me to Catherine Gray, and she has an amazing documentary, Show Her the Money, which highlights the fact that only 2% of women founders receive venture capital funding. And Natalie and I, we started, putting our minds together, and we're trying to figure out why is that. Is it the fact that there's not as much women in entrepreneurship, and therefore that's why the numbers are so low, or is there something deeper? So we're putting on an event, trying to figure that out, putting on an event to really discover. We have panels with startup founders, venture capitalists, and various other successful women entrepreneurs, and they'll be just telling their stories, and we really want to give them that platform to shine.
Beautiful. And I mean, you both have been putting out a bunch of great content recently, like educational content, but also entertaining. Like when I see that, I was like, ooh, there's Natalie and Dwayne causing trouble, having fun. So what's that process like for you from a content creation perspective, Natalie?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, just working with Dwayne is a lot of fun. I mean, we all want to make impact and help people, but when you're teaming up with someone you can have fun with, that just makes the process much more enjoyable. So
yeah. Dwayne's a pretty fun guy.
Yeah.
Mushroom joke.
I mean, if it weren't for him, I would not have been going out and doing those videos.
Okay.
But just knowing that he was there, it made it so much more easy to get out of my skin.
Yeah.
And be a little bit more animated and go out and ask people if they knew about that.
Dwayne. That's what I like to hear.
Well, if I could just jump in. Silicon Valley is all about innovation, entrepreneurship, and really making an impact.
Yeah.
Especially when we talk about like Facebook, their whole thing is you got to make an impact on day one, right?
Right. So, move fast and break things.
Yeah, move fast and break things. Kind of like what's happening with our government right now, right?
We're diving deep. Yeah.
But it's all about like making an impact and really like getting your name out there and telling everyone here we are, right?
Yeah, and you mentioned innovation. The upcoming M&A summit from ACG, the Association for Corporate Growth, you've got an all-star cast. You're bringing together hundreds of people and arguably one of the coolest places around. Like, what was that experience like so far for you, Yvonne?
Well, it's been an interesting experience. We are hosting this event, M&A Tech Connect, at Levi Stadium. We really were hoping for the 49ers to win the Super Bowl this year to make it even more impactful, but they're coming back next year. We're good.
Right.
We're good.
I love the positivity. It's coming. It's
coming. With Super Bowl at home next year, so maybe good things are coming. Great venue. It's been really tremendous putting these panels together. We have everything from sports tech to M&A tech to, of course, AI to an investment panel. We have a beautiful breakfast panel that will focus on elevating women in tech. That's really great. We have that's just the main stage. We have a whole different area that's focused what we call on venture source. So that's with startup founders and VCs all day long. And then, of course, there's the ACG piece to it, which is the deal source, which is where the investment bankers and the private equities meet and source their deals.
Okay. So you guys probably think I'm a maniac, but this was all by design. Supporting women in technology, women in venture, and more specifically the M&A space. You both have incredible mission-driven organizations, and I think I'm curious to get your respective takes on this. But when we look back throughout history, the companies that have had the most impact are the ones that are rooted in an appreciation and a devotion to a concept, rather than like a technology or a product, because those will change. And I've given this example before, but look at AT&T. They've been on for what, 150 years or something crazy like that. It's because they help people communicate. The POT system, the plain old telephone system, was replaced by voice over internet, and now everybody uses their phones. So the products will change, the technology will change, but the core concept does not. So it feels like the three of you are, who knows, maybe there's an opportunity to collaborate. I guess I'm curious, Natalie, can you share what was the original inspiration for, was it an aha moment? Were you and Dwayne having a slice of pizza and you're like, wait a second, let's fix this? Tell us that story.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I felt like I was reaching out to Dwayne about my pre-accelerator because I saw him putting out great events too, and I wanted to see if we could collaborate. And I think it was just timing because he had just been in contact with Catherine Gray about Show Her the Money, and that came into conversation. And actually previously last year, when I was with Girls in Tech, unfortunately they shut down, we were also planning to try to do a screening of Show Her the Money. And so I feel like everything just kind of timing and things collided. So we partnered. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Natalie found out really fast that I'm a lunatic.
but you're a lunatic. So that's okay.
Because the day before we were talking about just putting on a women's event where we get to display all these amazing women entrepreneurs. And then I got put in contact with Catherine Gray, and I was supposed to meet her in 30 minutes. And I just say, Natalie, jump on this call.
Wow.
Right? And that's just how fast we move. And ever since then, we've just been on like just moving at the speed of light, it feels like.
I'm glad you
And if
trusted
you
your
haven't
gut.
seen the movie, you must watch it. I've attended a screening. It's phenomenal.
Okay, tell us more. Yeah.
It's eye-opening.
Yeah.
The stories that are being told, just the whole movie is the way it was put together, the voices it's great.
Like when you think about because it's obviously helpful to have like an emotional connection. In fact, if we've all seen those presentations before where somebody goes out and they'll lead with like a statistic or something, and that can kind of fall flat. However, if you say, this is a problem that I personally had or a friend of mine had, and we couldn't find a solution out on the market, so that's why we created it. That can have like so much more weight behind it. Were these kind of some of the elements or the philosophies that were inspirational or moving to you personally about the movie?
Sure. And it just relates, right? We're all in Silicon Valley. We've all heard the stories. Personally putting together events, trying to get females to be on panels, because I, for one, like diversity, because I like a diverse opinion, right? And just seeing all the struggles that females have to go through, in particular in that space.
Yeah, does this resonate with either one of you?
Yeah, I mean, I think just always being a female in tech, like one of the only one in the room, it's the same in university. I think I was one of 2 girls in our computer science class.
Wow.
And then coming here into the startup scene, it was also hard to find other females until we started building that community. So yeah.
Is this something that's consistent throughout the United States and large or broad, or do you think it's kind of more focused specifically in the Silicon Valley here?
I've heard, so I feel like I've heard someone saying in Poland they have like equal representation of female.
Poland's doing something right.
And so I do think it is a cultural, I think that some aspect of it is cultural and how we communicate about which industries are good for women or girls, and which ones are interesting for boys.
Yeah.
And I've also heard even the titling of a class can change the output of whether girls will register for a university class or not. And so taking those aspects into consideration so that it's appealing to both sexes, I think is super important.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just earlier today, Yvonne and I were doing a prep call for, I hope it's okay that I kind of give the inside track here. But we're talking a little bit about the philosophy of I guess the parallels between the lack of diversity in funding, and then also maybe some of those unconscious biases that are happening in the models that are being built themselves. So maybe that could be an interesting trajectory that we pursue and explore on March 5th, which is a perfect
Perfect. I was just reading an article yesterday. I forget what publication it was in, but the whole Elizabeth Holmes, can I say disaster, didn't help it much, because VCs are now more than ever looking at, well, you're as a female founder, can I really give you this money? What are you going to do with it? So they're more scrutinized,
isn't it?
It sure is, but it's the reality.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and obviously I'm not a female founder, right? So
prove it.
I don't know if anyone can tell.
This is a family show.
So, for me, it's more about exploring like reasons behind the structures. Like perhaps people aren't consciously discriminating against females, and perhaps there's something broader, because as an investor, you're looking for a return on your investment. You're not necessarily looking at like whether or not the person you're trying to invest in is a woman or not. You're looking for great ideas and ideas that could potentially scale. So what we want to do is really explore whether or not like if being a female has anything to do with the amount of money you receive and the amount of funding that you receive. So it's really a day of exploration more than anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love that. That's like we're on this journey together to find truth. Yeah. And so that way there's like no judgment. And it's kind of like a side-by-side collective kind of thing working together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, when you when you mentioned that, Dwayne, it made me think of a study that I want to say KPMG. No, it's maybe McKinsey, I think it was. One of the big four firms had done a study on diversity, specifically with publicly traded companies. And so they were able to line these up and show, like, beyond a shadow of a doubt, like definitively, that companies with diverse executive teams perform better by over 25%. And this makes sense to me from a conceptual level. Here's why. I read a book a couple years ago called The $1 Trillion Coach. It was written by Eric Schmidt from Google, and it was about a guy named Jim Campbell, who was a football coach back in Colombia. This was like 30 years ago. Jim ended up not being so great of a football coach because he played the students that tried the hardest, not the all-stars, right? And what made him be a really good executive, in fact, he ended up being an early coach to Steve Jobs and Susan Wojcicki from YouTube and Larry and Sergey and all these rock stars, is that he had incredible high emotional intelligence. So by playing the people, in fact, you know what? Before Apple, he was an executive at Kodak, and he ended up jumping ship. I think he kind of saw the writing on the wall. Mm-hmm. But some of the philosophies that he was sharing at Google is this idea of, let's get to know, appreciate, and love each other. Like, not everybody has to get along all the time. That's just kind of an unrealistic expectation. However, if we start the meeting off, like, let's say we're doing like a board meeting or some kind of, right? And we talk about what's happening in our lives, we're going to see each other more than just people that we're forced to interact with. We're going to see people as human beings, and that will increase the empathy. And there's probably some kind of like quantum entanglement, yada, yada, funky business in there somewhere too. But I really like the idea of getting to know and appreciate and care about your team, because then that's going to build, and then you can be really honest with each other. And then like the fruit of that flower is that we can come up with the crazy ideas and not feel like we're going to get judged for it. Because like if Dwayne comes up with a crazy idea and that inspires something in Yvonne, who inspires me, that inspires Natalie, all of a sudden, whoa, we're thinking outside the box. And we've got this kind of unique philosophy of problem solving.
I can
yes, please
jump on there.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the importance of funding. So Silicon Valley specifically is known for its risk capital and just being able to like give crazy ideas a try, right? And women in particular, the type of industries that make the most money, beauty industries and stuff like that, all the billionaire women are made from like makeup and stuff, like Rihanna and Selena Gomez and all these other people. So there's massive opportunity for women-funded businesses, but I think it's more building awareness of the opportunity that is there and the type of return on investment that investors can really take advantage of.
Okay, so if we you said building awareness, and then what was the second piece? Showing how they can see an ROI.
Yeah.
How do we quantify these things?
These are interesting questions.
Yeah. He's like, my friend Yvonne is going to take this
the $1 million idea.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can quantify that.
Yeah.
So to be specific, what do you mean? What needs to be quantified?
Well, I guess if I were to think about this from a deal flow perspective, we can look at it at like angel list. In fact, Naval Ravikant, the founder, was recently on the All In podcast, which is like one of my favorites. I feel like they intertwine psychology with economics and public policy and science and business and all sorts of cool stuff. And so when he created Angel List, which I always confuse with Angel Launch, our friend Zaha sound, right? So, theoretically, you can quantify the number of companies that are receiving funding, and then you can pull that apart and say, these are the number of, you mentioned there's 2% of women are receiving venture funding. Mm-hmm. I think that number is considerably higher when it comes to a female co-founder with a male co-founder. I think like 30-40%.
It's about 20%, at least in the US when I last checked.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, and so I don't know. I mean, I don't have the answers either, but
Well,
it's good to have these open dialogues, like you're saying.
Absolutely. So based on some of the conversations we've had, there's a few aspects that we need to consider. For example, women are less risk averse, right, or more risk averse, where they prioritize security, so they're less likely to become entrepreneurs. So overall, there's just less entrepreneurial women, and then we're talking about startups, so there's less women-led startups, right? So perhaps, so we're not like making any judgments like only 2% of women are getting funding, and that's bad. Like, we don't know, right? Like, we really want to figure out like what is the lead cause of this dilemma, and whether or not there are perhaps resources that we could throw at the problem that can better open access to more opportunities.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I have some
Please.
thoughts on that. One of my friends, she works for a company called Whoop, which is content creators, and she even stated, even though most of the content creators are women, the men are still making more, and the main difference is because men will ask. They will and it's just the same thing as like applying to jobs. Women won't apply unless they have 100% of the criteria.
Just talked about it this morning.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it comes that same mindset comes into in entrepreneurship, and so men are but men are also incentivized to push and ask, because unfortunately for men, I think if you aren't able to provide or make money, you are kind of seen as like valueless in our economy.
So does that mean that the
culture.
societal expectations of men are different than women?
I would say so, yes. Yeah.
And changing, but still different.
Yeah. How so?
Well, I mean, you see the way that girls are raised these days, right? They have way more opportunities in schools than they had even 15 years ago or 10 years ago. So, things, what you mentioned earlier, college courses, just changing the name and encouraging women to sign up for that. We didn't have that, right? And I feel like parents, at least in California or in Silicon Valley, all my girl parents that I know are raising their girls with way more, aptitude or freedom and more courage than they used to be raised.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I sometimes like let's try a little social test. If I say think of a bum, what do you think of?
A male bum.
Yeah, probably. But when we think of like a homeless woman, you're thinking like, wow, like this person needs to be taken care of, which doesn't feel to me like there's parity. However, that's kind of like that's how the cookie crumbles. So like my next question, and again, I know we're getting into deep waters, and thank you each for the trust and honesty and transparency here. If we're going to put our fingers on the scale, how do you think what's the best way to go about that? And I know that's a tricky one, but do you have any general thoughts around this, Natalie?
On like evening the scale, or?
Yeah, so like if only 2% of women are getting venture funding, or 2% of venture funding is going to women, is that some kind of like, should there be a governmental intervention and because I could see there being like long tail positive impacts on society. Like think about if a young woman who traditionally wasn't going to get venture funding did, and then that story goes out and inspires a whole new next chapter of young lady entrepreneurs. That could be a beautiful thing for everybody, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know there was policies put into even like be able to start tracking, I think, diversity on boards, and so like part of it I think is putting like data in place or policies in place so that we can even know this information and make informed decisions, and that's the first step.
I think BlackRock in fact would not invest unless there was at least 25% female or minority board.
So if I can jump in,
Please.
I just don't believe that this is a government solution to this problem. I think there's a market solution to this problem, and raising awareness that diversity is not bad. It's not a curse word, right? We shouldn't run away from DEI. Like, it's a good thing. Like, having diverse perspectives, people who come from different backgrounds. For example, people in Africa, they have technology as well, and they like build these amazing things from limited resources, and then you bring that intellectual to like a place with a lot of resources. They can be like, you guys are using too much resources. Maybe we can cut down and still have the same results, right?
Okay.
So just demonstrating the value of diversity and demonstrating the value of women-founded ventures, I think that's where the solution really is, because, you know, you can force a company to like take on DEI programs, but then like a new administration will come and say DEI is bad, and they're like, okay, we don't have to do this anymore, right?
Yeah.
But if there's a market that is proven that these programs actually achieve results, then we can, and there's probably like demonstratable ways to replicate these results, then regardless of what administration or what government comes into place, like the common sense thing to do would be to do what works, right?
Yeah, very well put. Just want to give a quick shout out to Jonathan Bunton, who says, "We love you, Yvonne."
Hi, John.
You've got fans. And speaking of Jonathan and his partner Shyama, they're hosting the Women in Wealth Summit on March 27. So that's going to be a really good one. Check out Shyama Bunton.
And Shyama will actually be part of our Tech Connect as well. She
Oh,
is
wow.
on our investment panel. So
Okay,
shout
excellent.
out.
Yeah, but you're getting all sorts of rock stars. That's
We
good.
have a rock star panel.
So when you're thinking about curating the right kinds of speakers, how did you start? I mean, peel back the onion for us, Yvonne, because as CEO of ACG, Association for Corporate Growth, I mean, you're spearheading like one of the most prominent, successful organizations in the Bay Area. So how are you thinking about this? No pressure.
No pressure at all. Well, so I've been with ACG Silicon Valley in April 5 years.
Okay.
And so I've made quite a few connections. I was with the German American Business Association before, so built quite a community there as well. And so when I start a panel or even this conference, I just think, who's interesting? Who have I met recently or run into who can contribute something that will engage people in discussions and, you know, help them think.
Yeah. Wow. I love how simple you put that, like help people think. Yeah. Yeah.
And then, you know, obviously having big company names always helps, because who doesn't want to hear from someone who's at Google, or who doesn't want to hear from someone who's at Meta, or, you know,
Sure.
A successful VC firm, you know.
There's a cachet that comes with
There's
that.
definitely. But more than that, it's really having interesting people. And then even more than that is having people who can engage in a panel discussion, not just sit there and be duds, but really, you know, shout out to Vishal Verma. I don't know if everybody knows Vishal. He is so, I love having him on panels because he's just extremely funny.
Spicy
is a great word for it.
Yeah.
And that's and I love controversy on panels too,
Yes.
because that keeps it spicy again, right? It keeps it interesting. People take more from a panel discussion that is interesting and diverse. And I hate manels. Can I just say that? I call it manels.
Oh, okay.
All men panels.
Okay. Sure.
I didn't coin the term, but I can't stand it. I always try to have a female, but to your point again earlier, it's hard to get females on panels because we go off a checklist. How can I contribute? I don't really know. That's not going to work for me, right? The confidence isn't always there.
Yeah, we won't say who, but we're speaking earlier with somebody from Google who had mentioned that she's been running a team, and over the last 3 years she's had this incredible individual contributor that never once has asked for a raise, and then within the first couple weeks of having one of the gentlemen join their team. He's like, well, this is my trajectory. This is, I want to make sure to get a promotion within X amount of months. So maybe that's we're in this kind of shift, perhaps, where we're empowering people, we're empowering women to say, hey, you know what? You deserve to ask for this. And if fellas are asking for this and getting it, then really what's stopping you? So I'm curious, and again, I don't have the right answer here, but as community leaders, what can we do to support that? I mean, obviously giving a space for people to tell those stories, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think part of it is just bringing that up in conversation. I think men talk about business a lot more than women. Like if they're always talking about like how to get to the next level. And I'm not sure that's always happening in conversations between females. And so it was only for me joining other women's groups where they talked about leadership was I getting or hearing this advice, which early on when I was working at the Gap, that's when I started advocating for myself. And I quickly got promoted because of that. But had I not gone to that women's group, Willpower, and heard these speakers talk about advocating yourself, I wouldn't have done that. And it was just an easy thing of someone telling me, like, you need to do this. And then I tried it, and then I got results.
What was the aha moment? Actually, before we do that, we're at the half hour, so I want to do this just flies by. Isn't this crazy? I want to do a shout out for Zombie Radio on Pirate Cat Radio. So that's 92.9 FM KPCR, and then KMRT in Los Gatos. That's Pirate Cat Radio. So yeah, was there like an aha moment that you had, or what was you said was it Willpower? Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just hearing the talks and then going and trying it. And then when the results came in, it was like an aha. Like I was like, this isn't like brain science or anything. It's actually just like going out there and advocating yourself. And it was a lot simpler and easier than I thought it was. And I also realized, especially if you're at a big company like Gap, it's actually even easier, because if you just do a presentation on something, because people have so little interaction with you, they already assume if you're presenting on something, you're that expert. And they start thinking of you that way. And so that's actually a lot easier to do at a big company than it is at a small company. And so like just putting yourself out there and seeing that results was like the aha for me. Because then once I did a presentation at that time, it was on CSS and front end engineering. People just started pinging me and asking me questions and seeing me as the expert in that. And it was just by doing one presentation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first promotion you ever got?
The first promotion, I mean, at the Gap, it was actually because I saw a project. So there was an opportunity after doing that talk actually on CSS. At the same time, the UX design team was talking about that they wanted to implement a design system. And then I just went to my manager and was like, I'm actually interested in implementing that. And that's how I was able to get a promotion to like do that work and get a full-time contract at the time with the Gap, because they often all try to contract you first, and then I got a full-time position from doing that. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
So you took the bull by the horns.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm always blown away by just how many people are willing to help you if you just ask, if you just like say, hey, I need some help. I collect super connectors like Pokemon cards, right?
Okay.
And shout out to you, Ann Nugent, she's my favorite, and also Frankie. So
Frankie Dong.
Frankie
was on about a month ago.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it was so fun.
Yeah, he's my favorite.
Yeah.
So pretty much whenever I need something, I just have crazy ideas sometimes. I call up Ann. I'm like, Ann, can you connect me with the president? And he's like, I might know someone who knows him. Right?
Okay. Nice.
I just love the fact that I have a network of people who just believe in me so strongly that they're willing to leverage their network to help me accomplish my goals. So
Yeah. Well, you introduced me to Robert Scoble, and Robert has become a quick friend. And so thank you.
Shout out to Robert Scoble.
Thank
I
you
love
for that.
Robert so much. Anytime I want to do a podcast, I'm like, hey, I got a podcast
Yeah.
coming up. You want to be a guest?
That dude's
Never
living in
says
the-
no.
He's living in
Never
the
says no.
future. It's just wild.
Yeah, so shout out to Robert.
Yeah. Yvonne, what about yourself? Do you have a go-to, somebody who's like hyper connected, ready to rock and roll? Maybe Tanya Long.
Tanya Long, yeah, shout out to Tanya, yeah. For sure. And also Sean Flynn.
Sean got me started in podcasting.
There you go.
Isn't it so crazy?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely two of my go-tos. Love them both. Yeah, and you throughout your career you make more connections, and I don't know honestly what I do without LinkedIn. I know you have your sacred list. I haven't started that yet, but to me, LinkedIn is a super tool. And even if you're not connected with someone, you know someone who's connected to someone. And
exactly. I don't know if I told you both of you what the list is that Yvonne just mentioned, but 12 years ago, I was starting a co-working space with my friend Vicky. And we ended up scaling to 12 locations. I knew I was going to get to meet a lot of pretty wonderful people like yourselves. And so when I connected with folks that there was chemistry and integrity and just rock stars, I would put them on this list. Now I got almost 800 people. And so when somebody goes, oh, do you know somebody who with this expertise and this whatever, I can just do a search within this, and it's not fancy, it's just a database. But I can be valuable and make 3, 4, 5 plus introductions rather than shooting from the hip. What was that person saying? What did they do? Right.
So I like this conversation because I think it's so important to understand networking and relationship building, because I call myself a community builder, and I really take that title seriously.
What does that mean to you?
So it means cultivating a network of people who are like-minded and could possibly be collaborators, right? And
like Pokemon.
Yeah, I really see everything through the lens of Pokemon. Anyway, so it's very important to cultivate this network. And for example, I met my friend Will Yahweh Parsons. He sells tiger nuts in LA, and I just connected him with one of my friends who does loans, and then he was so grateful. He connected me with all types of people.
Wow.
And then these are people who connected me to Rachel Kim, who's in turn coming to our Go Beyond event to be a keynote speaker, and she's a rock star.
You know what this kind of
so crazy how these.
You know what this strikes me as is the three of you bring people together and obviously host events, but you connect people without any expectation for getting something back. It's you're not keeping a checklist of and so it feels a lot more genuine and not transactional, and that to me is a true philosophy of Silicon Valley. I don't know what your experiences are.
Yeah, I'm actually reading Give and Take by Adam Grant right now. And that's all about givers versus takers and matchers. Mm-hmm. And givers are people who just naturally help people without wanting things in return. And what was interesting was they did different studies, I don't know, maybe it was engineers in their first year, and the givers were actually the worst performing. Mm-hmm. But then if you look 2 years later, they were the top performers. Mm-hmm. Because that giving actually ended up coming back. And I think it was the same with first year medical students. And so that was really interesting.
Medical students.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they were supporting others study, and then okay. And then maybe as they're progressing, other people are helping them back, and then
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
I did this fun exercise with one of my previous board presidents, Haley Tabor, love her to pieces too, from Dell Technologies. And for Women's Day one year, we did an exercise in our Female Executive Leaders Circle. Describe yourself. Who are you? What represents you? And so that could be, so for me, it was, I am a connector and I am a traveler. Those are the two things that really define my personality, me. And so it was a great exercise to just kind of go through what each person does best, and just to bring it back, the connecting piece. To me, it makes me happy if I can connect to people. Making people smile, bringing the best out in each other, and connecting them, that makes my heart happy and fills my bucket.
That's awesome. It's like this concept of ikigai in Japan, where it's like the overlapping Venn diagram of what you're good at, what makes you happy, and what makes money, right?
I still have to figure out the money making part, but
something tells me, I mean, because ACG is like they pick the best of the best. So maybe can you share a little bit more about the genesis for the M&A Connect that's going to be happening at the Niners Stadium coming up pretty soon?
Nice.
Get your tickets.
I love it. Well, it's just again a way to connect and bring people together.
Help people think.
Yeah, help people think. No, I mean, seriously, we have a little plug here. My favorite panel of the day, and without trying to be mean to any of the other panels, is going to be the sports tech panel. I'm a huge sports fan. Go Giants. I'm so excited. Baseball season is back. And we have the sports tech panel talking about AI, how it connects sports, and or how it makes how they bring technology into the sports teams, into the fan experience, and all that. And we have Allie Wagner. Ring a bell. She is a U.S. soccer player, U.S. team soccer player. She co-founded the Bay FC women's soccer team here in San Jose. So excited to have her on the panel, share her perspective on anything not really tech related, but sports. We have the 49ers on there. We have the Giants on there. We actually have a gentleman from the NBA talking about what the NBA is implementing. So just a little different twist to the usual Silicon Valley just tech talk. So focusing 1 hour on sports tech. So I'm super excited about that.
There are two VCs I want to introduce you to that are, their LPs are all professional athletes. Next Play Capital, and at any rate, we'll chat offline about this, but that is kind of a unique, and I'd love to hear what you both think about this. Is like having, just to oversimplify, you're either making the sausage or you're selling the sausage. So if you can provide visibility and eyeballs into what you're doing, then you're adding strategic value. Kind of like maybe how some of these professional athletes are able to use their visibility to help sell products and services. So that way you're not just like writing a check, you're kind
and do good. Let's not forget all the good they do.
Oh yeah, impact, of course.
Yes,
yeah,
impact.
Yeah, so strategic value is super important, because like when we put on these events like a women's leadership summit, 50% of the world are not women, right? So you already like struck out half. So you got to provide a reason for the other half to also come. And with our event, we always try to. So there's an invisible pipeline in Silicon Valley, right? LPs or venture capitalists, they usually like LPs because they could probably fund their funds and stuff like that. So we try to fill out the entire pipeline, from getting those LPs with those venture capitalists, and then that attracts all the startups, and then all the other people come, right? But those are our main focus, and regardless of what the theme is, whether it be women's leadership or AI or whatever the case is, like if you want to attract the value and to have valuable people come who can provide resources to the people there. I think it's important to understand what they're looking for.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I always really enjoy events where the audience is just as fascinating as the guests themselves.
100%.
So, I mean, I feel like the three of you are well positioned to build kind of like the same energy at these events.
Absolutely.
It's like a puzzle piece. You're trying to make sure everyone is coming and everyone's going to be happy, and everyone's getting what they want from the event.
Can you make everybody happy all the time?
that's impossible because most people aren't happy themselves. So you
Oh,
can't
wow.
make unhappy people happy, but you know,
Yeah,
we can
that's a
try.
Mic drop right there. Did you have the mic drop attached? We can't
I don't
drop.
think you should ever try, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Like, I think it's okay to be disliked.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to be disliked as long as you are staying true to yourself. And, you know, because being disliked kind of gives you power. And this is only my personal opinion. Like, if you guys get in trouble, don't blame me. All right.
Dwayne's phone number is
Disclaimer.
555.
No, but for real, like, it's okay to like live in your truth and say, maybe I'm not for everyone. Maybe I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but the people that I am for, I provide extreme value to, and they provide extreme value to me as well.
Yeah.
And it's okay to just live in that truth and walk around like you're the boss.
Can we double click on that? Like, what are some things that people can ask themselves to make sure that they're staying true to themselves?
Well, just ask me like a deep question. Like,
Don't worry, we're not live right now, so it's okay.
No, but let's see. Well, questions I ask myself is, what do I want? Like, what do I want in life? And I need to
Like,
make
what
sure.
makes you happy?
Yeah, what do I want? What are my goals? And is a petition, does that fit in my goal or not? Does that help me to live in the truth of who I am and how I define myself? So I define myself as a community builder and a super connector.
Yeah.
So is this current petition before me, does that like help me move forward in that truth or not?
That's beautifully put. And if I understand you correctly, it's almost like, is there an alignment within my actions and how I'm living and how I say I'm living, right?
Exactly.
Also, where did Deepak Chopra come from?
You ask me a super deep question. You always ask like really deep questions that make you go, oh,
I threw you the curveball because I knew you were going to hit it out of the park, man, and you did. So, you know, we've got about like 10, 15 minutes left. I always want to make sure that the zombie community can be valuable to our guests. So thank each one of you for coming on today. Also, shout out to Xander Gray, Xander Gray, Gray, and Valerie, Valerie does our AV, KOVOL, wonderful woman and human being. In fact, since we're talking about different communities supporting each other, Career Pathways International is run by a wonderful woman named Kate. And Kate, I think the longevity summit, which happened last year in October, that would have been a disaster without her. So I mean, it feels really good to be able to lean on people that you trust. And so when you have those people, you want to hold them dear and take good care of them. So who are as you two and Yvonne, you and your team, as you're thinking about building these upcoming events, who are the people that you're leaning on that you're like, you know what, I know they're going to rock it. I don't need to like micromanage. I don't need to like double, triple check. Who are the people that you rely on?
I mean, right now, Neelam Chakrabarti, she's my community ambassador at Not Too Crazy. And, even today we had our pre-accelerator and there was some overlap with this podcast. And if it weren't for her, I wouldn't have been able to be here.
Wow.
So I
Neelam,
know I could, hand it off to her and she would rock it and I wouldn't have to think about it. So I really appreciated that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Xander Gray, I really rely on him and Sergio. We work on a little company called Media Angels. And we've been doing a really good job of like helping to get Hollywood projects funded because little known secret, Silicon Valley investors don't really like to fund film projects because they can't really judge the ROI. So we've been doing a good job of assembling the type of investors that do fund creative projects.
Do you think they can't judge the ROI or they can't mitigate the risks? Or maybe it's a little bit of both?
I think it's both. Because it's very hard to predict how a movie's going to do. Even if you have like the best actors, whatever, like depending on the trends, suppose that day the economy's like doing that great and then it bombs, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to really predict, like it's really hard. So what we do at Media Angels is we have a predictive analytics service as well as multiple funding pathways in order to align creative projects with their funding.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
And so I got to give a shout out to my current board president, Ashley Tarver, AI evangelist at Microsoft. I'm going to owe him money at some point because he's my venting machine.
Okay.
So he's always there, always supporting ACG Silicon Valley. Finding lots of ways to have collaborations, for instance, with Murray Newlands. They're doing a collaboration there at the Microsoft campus with ACG, and yeah, he's a good one.
Wow.
I'm glad he's in my corner.
That's crucial, right? And so you mentioned the location. It's like obviously the people make the place. So when you get wonderful humans together, like magic can happen. But it also really helps to have like just a remarkable spot as well. How did you get the Niner Stadium? Like that's arguably like one of the most gangster locations. I don't know. Can you spill the beans here?
Funny enough, my former assistant had the idea of just reaching out to them and why not Levi Stadium? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? So my board knows I always come out with these crazy big ideas, but I feel like you can always downscale. It's harder to go up.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing it, and hopefully we're going to do it really well, and we can come back next year. We had high competition or tough competition from our San Francisco chapter. They're doing their conference in Napa Valley every year.
Mm-hmm.
It's wine tasting and cigar smoking. And
yeah, you can do that all the time. How many times you get a chance to party at the Niner Stadium, the Levi Stadium, which is like it's
amazing. It's under construction right now for the Super Bowl, but we actually managed to strike a deal with them because they're under construction. So we're in the owner's level. Which doesn't really get rented out to anyone. Yeah. And we're able to have meetings up there and take advantage of that space. And then most of the conference will be at the Levi's club level. There's Levi's jeans hanging everywhere, and it's an amazing space if you haven't been. Oh, may I just plug?
Please, yeah.
For our cocktail reception, if you needed more more encouragement to buy a ticket to this conference for the closing cocktail reception. We just confirmed some of the cheerleaders. Sourdough Sam is going to be there. We'll have the Super Bowl trophies there. So it's going to be an amazing event, not to be missed.
Wow. That sounds super cool.
And it's not just for sports fans.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. It's a great venue, right? Whether you are 49ers fans or like my board board president, Ashley, who's, I can't even say it, a Cowboys fan.
We can edit that part out.
It doesn't really matter. It's just one of those, you have to go once, right?
Yeah. And ostensibly it's around mergers and acquisitions, which is interesting just because the space is changing. Or we had Lena Khan head of the SEC, mm-hmm. if I'm not mistaken, and it kind of cooled the market. And I think the intention behind that was positive because obviously big tech has just so much money and so much power. So I think kind of keeping that checks and balances is good as well. However, because it's all connected, right? So high net worth individuals get exits from private investments that oftentimes happen from acquisitions because only 1 or 2% of companies actually go public. So when they get that liquidity, then they can be angels or super angels or invest in LPs, as Dwayne mentioned. So I'm really kind of interested to see what this unlock of the economy will look like. I've heard that we've been saving hundreds of billions of dollars in the last couple few weeks. In fact, there's I don't know if it's been approved yet, but there's a $5,000 Doge check that is being floated, which is $5,000 to every American would be $400 million, which is only 20% of the total amount that's been saved by cutting a lot of these crazy programs. I don't know if you guys have heard about where some of the American taxpayers' money is going to, but if we're 40 or 50th in education, why are we sending hundreds of billions of dollars abroad? Let's take care of Americans. So, I think that's a beautiful thing that we can all get behind. And if we have $5,000 that just got sent to you from Trump and Elon, how would you each spend it? I'm curious.
Probably more education on my end. I love learning, and I would love to like get more certification in coaching.
Okay.
So anything around mindset, I think that's fascinating.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Maybe there might be some mindset coaches to help unlock the next chapter of growth.
Yeah. Thanks.
$5,000 in your pocket right now. What are you doing, Dwayne?
I would like to have a further conversation on waste, fraud, and abuse and the type of programs that are being cut.
I kept my mouth shut. It was really hard.
This is the place to do it, though. You know what I mean?
I think the administration is focusing on their own programs to be cut. Look at the Pentagon.
That's next. The Pentagon is getting.
That should have been first, not the USAID, not the programs that need to be cut. It's 2% of the budget. There's different, but.
No, that's just. Thank you for thank you first and foremost for the vulnerability and the transparency. Like these are the conversations that get to go out to 15,000 people over the radio, and of course everybody in the zombies community too. So, yeah. No, this is cool. This is good.
Good.
Yeah,
so, how would you spend $5,000?
Yeah.
You have small kids,
Probably
so.
paid bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
I honestly, I love traveling. So I would probably spend it on a good vacation to Fiji or Bali or, $5,000 in Bali go a long way.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'll need it after this conference. You might need it after yours too.
Yeah. We're trying to be resource aware, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
when you say that, do you mean like from a zero-based budgeting, or just how are you thinking about being most efficient, I guess?
well, I think whenever you run an event, it's important to be aware of your resources and the limitations thereof. I think that's like a way broader conversation.
Yeah.
But if I could, I would just like to shout you out, Nick Larson.
Oh.
Like you are,
Thank
I
you.
just want to say, I really look up to you. You're definitely a leader in this space and in our community of community builders. And I think I really enjoy your events.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
You're a blessing in my life, Dwayne. I appreciate it. All three of you are. So thank you so much.
I would like to second what Dwayne said, and I love your energy, Nick. Every time I see you, you have this huge smile. It's always a pleasure to be around you, and love your events as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Contagious in your spirit.
I didn't pay
all
these
of
guys to
it.
say that. Bitcoin's
That's the $5,000, right? Yeah, seriously.
Thank you guys.
Love
I
it.
really
Thank you.
appreciate that. Yeah. It's like 5-10 years ago, I would hear like these ideas around quantum theory and energy that we can't quite yet measure. Maybe we can in the future. And I always thought that was like baloney. But I feel like maybe if everything in the universe is energy, like there's just some kind of inexplicable connection that we have with people, some more than others, and that it's got to come from somewhere. And so I appreciate the positivity. And in the last minute or two here, is there a website? Or obviously we'll have all these in the show notes, your links and everything, but maybe if we could, for all the listeners that are tuning in, maybe Natalie, can you spell your name so folks can connect with you on LinkedIn? Or
Yeah, my name is Natalie, like Natalie Portman, and Pan as in like Peter Pan. So
Like
Natalie Pan.
my name
Yeah.
got the pan.
Yeah. And you can find out more about my pre-accelerator on fundingbreakthroughlab.org.
fundingbreakthroughlab.org. And just real quickly, what are some of the goals that you have with Funding Breakthrough?
Yeah, so with Funding Breakthrough Lab, a lot of it is my personal goal was to help people get mentorship that they otherwise maybe wouldn't have been able to get. I think me growing up, my parents were first generation immigrants. They were busy at work, and I went into school thinking like you just have to study hard. And I didn't understand part of the thing of networking, mentorship, and the importance of that. And so this community is an extension of providing mentorship that I probably would have liked.
So you're solving a problem from personal experience. It's really cool because I feel like this agentic framework and artificial intelligence is taking the traditional, like, really technically challenging problems, and then if you can add your own emotionally intelligent approach to building, then you can, it's going to unlock a whole bunch of opportunity. Mr. Dwayne Campbell, please.
Thank you for the opportunity. So my aim and goal is to be the #1 hustler in the Bay Area. Not there yet.
Okay.
Not there yet. I feel like you are.
Got a few people ahead of you.
Not there yet, but I'm working my way up. My startup, Medallion XLN, is looking to help people own, manage, and distribute their own data. Media Angels is connecting Silicon Valley investors to Hollywood creative projects. And then I also do these events, Go Beyond 2% Women's Leadership Summit. Is going to be the biggest women's leadership summit of all time.
Amazing.
All time.
I can't wait. What's the date?
It's March 21st, and you can learn more about it at gobeyond2.com.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Yvonne Schwab, look me up at LinkedIn. Schwab like Charles, sadly, no relation.
Okay. That we know of.
That
Okay.
we know of.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. You've been listening to Pirate K Radio, Silicon Zombies BrainWaves on KPCR 92.9 FM in Los Gatos, KMRT 101.9 FM in Los Gatos. Check us out at siliconzombies.com, and thank you guys for hopping on. Till next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. See you, everybody. Cheers.